caskets were put beneath the surface of the earth. What you're about to see defies description.
Drink a mixture of Kool-Aid laced with cyanide.
It's a healing remedy.
The silence. That's what survivors remember. The awful, deafening silence right before the screaming began. November 18th, 1978. A remote jungle clearing in South America. Here, over 900 American men, women, and children would die in the largest single loss of American civilian life in a deliberate act until 9/11. This event gave birth to a chilling phrase you've probably heard: drinking the Kool-Aid. But here's the question that haunts us. How did a man who promised a paradise on Earth, a haven from racism and poverty, lead hundreds of his followers, including over 300 children, to take their own lives in a final, horrifying protest? To understand the end, you have to go back to the beginning. Before the monster, there was the savior. Meet James Warren Jones, born in 1931, Indiana. He was a poor kid from the wrong side of the tracks, obsessed with religion and craving a place to belong. So, he built one. In the 1950s, at the height of American segregation, Jones did something radical. He founded the People's Temple, a church that was fully, truly integrated. He preached racial equality when it was dangerous to do so. He and his wife Marceline became the first white couple in Indiana to adopt a black child, creating what he calls his rainbow family. For many, especially African Americans facing brutal racism and poverty, the People's Temple wasn't just a church, it was a lifeline. It offered food, housing, and a genuine sense of community. Membership exploded. Jones moved his flock to California, the land of promise. He became a political power player. His thousands of loyal, disciplined followers could swing elections, and politicians lined up for his endorsement. He was appointed chairman of the San Francisco Housing Authority. On the outside, the People's Temple looked like a progressive utopia, a force for good. But the price for this paradise? Your money, your family, your mind. This is where the story you think you know begins to turn. Behind the curtain of social justice, Jones's control was becoming absolute. First, it was your wallet. Members were pressured, then forced to sign over their paychecks, their homes, their life savings. Then it was your relationships. He fostered an atmosphere of paranoia, encouraging children to spy on their parents, husbands on their wives. Trust was destroyed. Then it was your mind. Jones used sophisticated manipulation. New members were love-bombed with affection. He faked psychic miracles, using information his spies had dug up from their trash. He held marathon catharsis sessions, where members were forced to confess their deepest fears, only to have those fears used against them in public humiliation rituals. The savior was becoming a tyrant, fueled by a cocktail of amphetamines to preach and barbiturates to sleep. He saw enemies everywhere: the CIA, the media, and anyone who dared to leave. And if you broke a rule, the punishment was swift and brutal: public beatings, torture, isolation. He had built a congregation. Now he needed a cage. He found it in the jungles of Guyana. He called it Jonestown, an agricultural project sold as a socialist paradise, far from the evils of America. Beginning in 1977, hundreds of followers migrated, believing they were building a utopia. The reality was a prison. Jonestown was profoundly isolated. Once you were in, there was no getting out. Jones confiscated every passport. Armed guards patrolled the perimeter. All mail was censored. All calls were monitored. The promised paradise was a labor camp. The soil was poor, crops failed, and people worked 11 hours a day, 6 days a week, on starvation-level rations of rice and beans. And through it all, his voice, day and night, blasted from loudspeakers across the entire settlement. Rambling sermons, paranoid warnings, propaganda. There was no escape from Jim Jones. This was the breaking point. This is when the world started to get a glimpse of the horror. November 17th, 1978. U.S. Congressman Leo Ryan arrives in Jonestown. He's there to investigate claims of abuse and people being held against their will. During his visit, a note is secretly passed to one of his reporters. It reads, "Please help us get out of Jonestown." The next day, Ryan announces he is leaving with anyone who wants to go. 16 temple members bravely step forward. For Jones, this was the ultimate betrayal. His perfect world was crumbling. His paranoia boiled over. As Ryan's group tried to leave from a nearby airstrip, Jones' elite guards, the Red Brigade, moved in and opened fire. Congressman Ryan was executed on the tarmac. 4 others were killed, including 3 journalists. The final line had been crossed. There was no going back. With his escape route from justice gone, Jones summoned everyone to the Central Pavilion. The audio tape recovered by the FBI captures the final agonizing hour. His voice, slurred and unhinged, declared it was time for a revolutionary act, a final protest against an inhumane world. It wasn't Kool-Aid. That's a common misconception. It was a cheap grape drink mix called Flavor-Aid, laced with a deadly cocktail of cyanide and sedatives. The children went first. Nurses and parents used syringes to squirt the poison into the mouths of babies and small children. The pavilion filled with their cries. Jones urged people to be calm, claiming they weren't crying from pain, just the bitter taste. Cyanide is agonizing. It causes convulsions and suffocation as it shuts down the body. One by one, family by family, they lined up and drank the Those who resisted were held down and forced. On that day, 909 people in Jonestown. A third of them were children. Nearly 70% of the victims were black, the very people Jones had promised to save from the injustices of America. Jim Jones was found from a gunshot wound to the head, likely self-inflicted. So how did it come to this? It wasn't a single act of madness. It was the final calculated step in a long, dark journey. Jones didn't just find people who were vulnerable. He found people who were idealistic, people who wanted a better, more equal world. He took that idealism, twisted it into loyalty, refined that loyalty into obedience, and then weaponized that obedience into total control. The horror of Jonestown is a chilling reminder that the road to hell can be paved with the very best intentions. He didn't just take their lives, he took the very hope he had promised them.